Traveling solo on a cruise ship can either feel lonely or it can feel like total freedom. On my recent cruise aboard the MSC Grandiosa, I discovered something surprising. When you travel alone, you get to design your entire cruise exactly the way you want it. No schedules to coordinate, no compromises, just the ship, the ocean, and whatever you feel like doing that day. My name's Eric, and I love to cruise. Today, I want to share what it was like sailing solo on the MSC Grandiosa and some of the things I enjoyed most along the way. This ship normally carries over 6,000 passengers and 1,700 crew members, but on this particular cruise, which sailed in March of 2026, there were just a little over 5,000 passengers. My trip started in Baltimore, where there was actually snow on the ground when I left. That's one of the things I love about winter cruising. You can go from cold weather to warm ocean breezes in just a few hours. I flew down to Orlando the night before the cruise and stayed at a very inexpensive motel in Cocoa, Florida, about 20 minutes from the cruise port. It wasn't fancy, but it did the job. They even had an outdoor pool, although it had rained the night before, so I didn't use it. The next morning, I walked across the parking lot to an IHOP and had breakfast before heading to the ship. After that, I called an Uber and made my way to the cruise port. My boarding window was supposed to be 1 o'clock, with a 30-minute check-in window. But when I arrived right on time, there was already a very long line outside waiting to board. Apparently, they had gotten a late start letting passengers onto the ship. So I joined the line and slowly made my way forward. It ended up taking about an hour and 45 minutes before I finally stepped onto the ship. But once I did, things immediately got better. The first thing I did was head straight to my cabin. And here's where I got a very nice surprise. Even though I had booked an inside cabin paying the solo supplement price of $501, MSC had upgraded me to a balcony cabin. I was absolutely delighted. Having that private balcony made a huge difference, especially traveling solo. It gave me a quiet place to sit, relax, and enjoy the ocean whenever I wanted. Our first stop was Nassau in the Bahamas, but on this trip I actually decided not to get off the ship there. Sometimes the best way to enjoy a cruise port is simply to enjoy having the ship a little quieter while everyone else is ashore. The next stop was Ocean Key, MSC's private island, and this was definitely one of the highlights of the cruise for me. It's a beautiful island with white sand beaches and that incredible turquoise water in the Bahamas that are known for. One of the things I enjoyed most was simply walking around the island. I walked all the way over to the lighthouse, which makes a great photo spot. Then I made my way across the island to a large lagoon area where you can actually see the cruise ship from across the water. I walked completely around the lagoon and saw pelicans diving into the water catching fish. After that, I found a nice spot on the beach and went for a swim and spent some time just relaxing in the sun. It was a beautiful day. Later in the cruise, we visited Puerto Plata in the Dominican Republic, docking at the Taino Bay cruise terminal. I did get off the ship there and spent some time exploring the area. I visited some of the popular spots like Umbrella Street and Pink Street, which are colorful areas designed for visitors and photos. I also walked up to see the cathedral in town. One thing I didn't get a chance to do was visit the fort. It was a little farther away than I wanted to walk. Looking back, I probably should have taken a taxi over there. But interestingly enough, I could actually see the fort from my balcony when the ship was in port. A big part of this cruise for me was simply enjoying the ship itself. I did a lot of walking in the mornings, after meals, in the evening, even before bedtime. There's a great walking and jogging track on the ship, and I found myself using it constantly. At the back of the ship, there's also an adults only pool and sun deck area. I didn't really spend time there relaxing, but I walked past it often. One activity I did was the ropes course. They put a safety harness on you and you climb up onto this elevated obstacle course above the deck. It was actually a really fun challenge, and the view from up there was fantastic. On sea days, I expected the deck chairs would all be taken, but I discovered a great little trick. If you wait until after lunch and go up to one of the higher decks where there isn't a pool or hot tub, there were plenty of loungers available. I found a quiet spot up there where very few people went. That became my place to lay out in the sun and read a book. I also made good use of the gym on this cruise. In the men's locker room, there's actually a sauna, and I visited that a few times during the week. I lifted some weights in the gym as well. Another thing I really enjoyed was swimming in the main pool early in the morning. Around 8 a.m., the only thing happening on the pool deck is usually a stretching or aerobics class, but the pool itself is basically empty. So I'd put on my goggles and swim laps back and forth with almost no one else around. It was a great way to start the day. One thing MSC does really well is live music around the ship. There was a steel drum player I really enjoyed listening to. There was also a saxophonist and a couple of different bands performing in lounges and up on deck. It created a great atmosphere throughout the ship. Interestingly, I didn't attend any of the theater shows on this cruise. The theater isn't large enough for all the passengers, so you have to reserve your seat in advance. By the time I tried to book one, they were already full. You could stand in line and hope to get in if someone didn't show up, but those lines were pretty long. So instead, I spent my evenings enjoying music around the ship or just walking the decks. Another thing I really enjoy about MSC is the dining experience. They still use tablecloths, which gives the dining room a more traditional feel. The waiters were excellent and always very attentive. The food was good, and there was plenty of variety. My favorite meal was actually the first night when they served prime rib. And when it came to dessert, my favorite was the cheesecake. I liked it so much I had it twice during the cruise. One detail I always enjoyed seeing was the way into the dining room was a large wall made up of television screens. All the screens together displayed an underwater scene filled with colorful fish swimming across the wall. It was a fun visual every evening as you walked into dinner. I want to add here that I did eat in the buffet most days at lunchtime, and I was surprised at how large it was. I never saw long lines. Sometimes there were a lot of people there, but other times it was easy to find a seat, and there was an abundance of food, a great variety of it, including Indian food and salads, desserts, breads. It was an amazing buffet, something I'd never seen before on a cruise ship. Finally, the cruise came to an end. Disembarkation morning involved one more long line. It took about 50 minutes waiting in line before I finally made my way off the ship. But by then, I had already had a great week at sea. Traveling solo on the MSC Grandiosa turned out to be a really enjoyable experience. What I liked most was the freedom to design each day exactly how I wanted. walking the ship, relaxing in the sun, swimming laps in the pool, listening to live music, and exploring a few beautiful places along the way. Sometimes cruising alone gives you the chance to slow down and enjoy things in a different way. And for me, that's a big part of why I love to cruise.